let's go. So, today I want to talk about corruption in video games. Who here, specifically video games media, who here has heard of Gamergate? This was a huge 2014 controversy wherein a game developer was allegedly sleeping with different game reviewers to get positive reviews on her game. And it really stood out to me because it was one of the few articles or pieces of media wherein the journalists were addressing not the games themselves, but everything surrounding the games, this industry that encapsulates gaming, which I call games media. I'm really excited about that, and in this project, I'm not going to be looking at games ethics, but kind of the corruption that's present within games media. So corruption, that's a big word, and the way I'm going to define it is as when a reviewer or journalist is motivated by an external force that affects the way in which they review the game or relay the news. And this is adapted from a Webster definition. So, I'm looking at corruption in games media. So the other term there is games media, and it's my first research question, defining what exactly is games media. Following, I want to look at what corruption is present within games media. What does it look like? What is the impact of this corruption? And finally, how will I approach this question? And it looks like some of my slides are bleeding off. That's cool. So at the top, we're going to be bringing these questions as a sort of timeline, which will lead us through this presentation. So first, what is games media? In my research, as well as through research with Rignall in 2015, I found games media to consist of a triad of entertainment, news, and marketing. So traditionally, we might have sites like YouTube, which are very entertainment-focused, almost fully comprised within this sphere, but we also have influencers like PewDiePie, who, even though he's mostly for entertainment, has a huge marketing influence. If he makes a game, people are going to download it. Or if he just plays a game, people are going to download it. Likewise, sometimes when we have reviews, they're heavily supplemented with marketing at the same time. So this is a reviewer who is flagged at both sides by advertisements of Doritos and Mountain Dew, which seems just a little absurd, and it kind of begs the question, is this maybe corrupt? Is there maybe a dual focus here? Is maybe relaying the news not their prime objective? Another form of corruption, which I'm specifically interested in, is false advertising. So this was a big media campaign, actually, in the last Super Bowl. You may have been familiar with it. They had a parody of like Desperate Housewives, and then a giant tank crashed through the wall. And they said, in a world of tanks, which was totally unrelated to the game. And exciting, but it makes me question, is this false advertising? And is that corruption? Okay, so corruption I see as sort of I see the global games market as sort of a big, fat Snicker. Okay, and I want to break that open and see what's inside. So if everybody could just take a bite out of this Snicker, try not to eat the whole thing. And I'm gonna chop this one open. All right, so let's break it open. Inside a Snicker, we've got a nuggety truth in the center. And in many ways, I see this as the game players. These are the guys who are interacting with the games themselves, closest to the media. These are what I would call the true representation of the games, and they're the influencers. However, they make up less than 1 billion of the influencer market, which is really small. It's less than 1% by some regards. And the reason why that kind of sucks is because they are the truth there. And if they're the truth, then what is all this other shit? That's what I've been asking myself in this presentation. And unfortunately, it's not a question we as consumers ask often enough. So I've seen a lot of ads for video games. And one thing I see a lot is they don't show any of the actual gameplay. What is that? It's certainly not new in marketing. There's been tons of Adidas ads or Nike ads wherein they show the emotions, the people, but they don't talk about the shoe at all. And it makes me question, what's the significance of that? And in games media, why should it matter? Well, it's a big deal because games media is now larger than the film and the music industry combined. So the precedents we set in advertising games has universal impact for marketing. Finally, I want to go over my approach. So finding journals is going to be tough. You saw it last week in class, right? There are 0 academic journals on games ethics, or at least those that I found with our databases, which is a little frustrating. So my plan is to attack topics from the side. I'm going to look at false marketing in general, and then extract kind of my findings into games media space. Likewise with bias and reviews. Finally, everybody comes into a project with bias, and I've got a bias as well. I'm a game developer. So I'm going to try to use that experience as a positive. I'm going to bring in my experience with talking with influencers and getting ads for my games and talk about how that has impacted my organic growth. Finally, I'm going to reach out to folks I know and friends in the industry and interview to get a true perspective of what's going on. Here are the citations of my presentation, and I want to thank you for your time.